what do women really feel about sex? What is the most common feeling that women have about sex? Now, as a guy, you might think that the most common feeling that women feel about sex is something like lust or desire or interest or curiosity or horniness. And actually, it is none of these. And it is really important that you understand what is that most common feeling, surprisingly and unexpectedly, the most common feeling that women really have about sex. Otherwise, you are not really going to understand a woman sexually. I'm Alexey Welsh, and I've been working with women for the last 20 years as a sex coach and a sex therapist, and I have dedicated my life to understanding female sexuality. And if there is one word with which I would describe female sexuality, I can guarantee you it is not what you think. So what we of course know is that what guys predominantly feel about sex is just really straightforward lust and desire and interest, and it's great to have sex, and sex feels amazing, let's do it as much as we can, and let's just have lots of sex, and just a real lively interest in it. And guys also think that is more or less what women feel as well. If you of course do it right for women, that they also feel that horniness and desire, and they're just really interested in sex, and the main thing they feel is that lust. And they just feel horny for sex. And the culture around you seems to present that image, but it is actually a cultural Instagram filter. It is not the reality. And the media misrepresents the reality all the time. And the reality is that if there is one word with which I would summarize female sexuality, it is fear. Fear and anxiety. It is not the sexy answer that you would have liked to receive from me, but it is the reality. This is the thing that most women feel most often above all other feelings about sex, and that is the feeling of fear. Women are afraid of so many things in sex. There are whole categories and whole levels and layers to it. And of course, we're not talking just about some kind of like a primal fear, but lots of anxieties and worries. Women are worried about so many things in sex itself, whether you're going to like it, whether they're going to please you, whether they're going to be good enough, whether they're going to perform the way you expect them to, whether they're going to be too boring or they're going to be too much, or whether you're going to like their body or a particular part of their body. Women are worried about all these things at the same time a lot of the time. On the back of that, women are worried that you're not going to be into them, or you're going to abandon them. Women are worried of losing a part of themselves, of a hit to their self-esteem, to their ego, if they feel used, if they feel that you're no longer interested after sex, if they feel like they've been basically used for a one-night stand. Women also have a lot of anxiety about the emotional connection that sex creates. It is well known that men can quite often lose interest after sex, while women can quite often feel more connected and more attached to a man after sex. So they feel like they're committing something that they might not have control over emotionally later, and they're afraid of suffering from that if they are abandoned after that. Women are afraid of just not being treated well, just being made to feel that they've been used or feeling disrespected. Women also can often be worried about the physical pain and discomfort. A lot of women have a physically uncomfortable experience, and that is a part of their anxiety, whether a man is going to do it right. Maybe they've had a lot of experience when it was physically uncomfortable. They already feel their body tensing up about it before sex. Women are afraid of having disappointments. They tend to have many more disappointing experiences than men, both in the quality of sex itself and the aftermath of sex, how they were treated after. And there is also ultimately a very primal level of fear for physical safety, for sexual violence. A lot of women have had things happen to them in one way or another, and if they haven't, they might have had a close shave. They might have had it nearly happen to them. They might have felt threatened in one situation or another. They might have had an abusive partner in their past. So you just don't really know these things, what these women have experienced before in their life. And even if they haven't, there is this cultural mood and vibe of sexual violence towards women, and it's genetic, it's ancestral. Women have been subjected to so much sexual violence that they absorb it into their psyche. Have a look at my other video about the reasons that women feel afraid of sex for more detail, for more explanation of that. But ultimately, all these reasons, they just combine into the general feeling of fear and anxiety that women carry about sex. And a lot of the time, women don't even know why they are so anxious or so afraid of sex. They just are, because all of it comes together. It's an undercurrent in their sexual psyche. And of course, this is not all women, and there are women who don't feel those fears and anxieties, and of course, women don't feel them all the time. But you do need to assume that most commonly, women will probably feel fear and anxiety about sex. And that's important, because if you're going to make one assumption when you are sending a dick pic or you're making a come-on, that assumption shouldn't be that it will be received with lustfulness and horniness. That assumption should be that there will be some kind of fear and anxiety on the other end. And it's not helpful that guys watch a lot of porn where there's all these girls who seem to be really up for it, always horny, really kind of, want to do everything with the guy and come on to the guy themselves. And this is all bullshit. This is all actresses. It's like a Hollywood actress who is playing somebody she's not. These girls are also playing somebody who they're not. And women, generally speaking, are not like this. And a lot of women have, in equal measure, that lustfulness and desire for sex and the interest in sex, and at the same time, a lot of fear and anxiety. And you never know which one is going to win. And women suffer a lot themselves from this conflict. Yes, there is all that lustfulness and desire and horniness and a lot of sexual energy, and women want to experience sex fully. Sex is very important to women, but at the very same time, there is a lot of fear and anxiety about it for all the reasons I described. So women want to be free of it. Some succeed and some don't. Some really do their best and they try to act at least in this way, and they may fantasize about themselves being so free in the safety of their home, but they may struggle in the moment when it actually comes to sex. They might pull out or avoid it, or find an excuse, or feel really tense, or act in a way that is confusing to you. And you just need to remember that it's not as simple as she wants sex or she doesn't want sex. She may very well want sex very much with you, but at the same time feel quite a degree of fear and anxiety about it. And yes, of course, once a woman feels comfortable and safe with you, she will most of the time lose all those fears and anxieties and really enjoy her sex completely. But to get there initially, those fears and anxieties will be in the beginning as a big part of her feeling about sex. So what do you do about it? Well, there isn't one thing you can do about it. You just need to be aware that women feel a lot of fear and anxiety about sex as the most common feeling they have about sex. You need to take that on board, and you need to remember that it's not as simple as you just being sexual with a woman and being some kind of lustfulness or desire back. You have to be half sexy and half safe and reassuring. You have to remember that women are not these, sex-crazed creatures you see in porn who are always up for anything and they're not afraid of anything. Far from it. If women behave this way, it's most likely a facade that is covering the reality of those fears and anxieties that are also there underneath. You are dealing with a human being there that has a lot of fears and anxieties about this. So you need to treat it with patience and with empathy, and you need to be acting in ways that are safe and reassuring, both physically and emotionally. There are a million different personalities and a million different situations, and in all of them is going to mean a different thing, what it means to make somebody feel safe and reassured. You just need to be aware that this is a big part of sex for women. But of course, also, this is not all down to you. There's this also the other side of this conversation, as if men are supposed to make women feel safe and reassured. There's only so much you can do as also just a human being in this picture. By being patient and reassuring, you can bring your half to the table, but it's also the woman's work to deal with her fears and with her anxieties. And some women just will not be able to. Some women cannot overcome that in their lives. Some women spend big parts of their life without sex, or do not have sex at all in their life because they can't overcome their fears. It is not all because you didn't do enough to make you feel safe or reassured, so don't take that responsibility completely upon yourself. But what you can do is just to be aware that it's not as simple as that picture where women are just horny and they desire sex and they just want your sexual comments. But that the most common thing that women feel about sex is fear and anxiety, and for you just to be aware of that and act from that place. And if all guys act and speak with the awareness of that, then hopefully, eventually, that is going to stop being the most common thing that women feel about sex.